DJI's RS4 Mini was a much welcomed advancement in the gimbal world 2 years ago. A small gimbal capable of handling large cameras and lenses, perfect for traveling. But now there's the RS4 Mini, which, like its larger counterparts, features auto-locking axis, the same easy portrait mode capabilities of the RS4, and even an optional AI tracking camera that makes run-and-gun gimbal shots even simpler. And as you can see, it's now grey instead of black. I took this device to Norway to see how it performs. I'm David, you are watching DAVISION, and let's go! I personally love gimbals. Initially because I didn't know how to shoot stable videos properly. But now I love them for their creative possibilities they offer. While a gimbal isn't always the right choice, it should definitely be a part of every content creator's or filmmaker's toolkit. To be honest, I use my gimbals maybe 3 to 4 times a year. Last year I took both the RS4 Pro and the RS4 to Madeira, and I would do it again. But this year I might just take the smaller RS4 Mini. Weighing in and over just 1 kilo with the tripod. It's only 40 grams heavier than the RS3 Mini. Along with the camera and the lightweight lens, you can keep the total weight under 2.5 kilos or even under 2 kilos with a lightweight prime lens. The gimbal itself has grown a little bit compared to the RS3, but it's still much smaller than the RS4. But now it also offers more capabilities. The RS4 Mini is supposed to cost a bit more than the RS3 Mini, with a single unit price of 390 euros. That's a bit high, but still fair for what this thing can do. However, there's a new combo package available with a briefcase handle and the mentioned AI tracking camera for 470 euros. And as you may have already noticed, DJI decided to offer the RS4 Mini in a two-tone silver and grey design. I have no idea why, but the color doesn't affect its functionality. The build quality is solid and high-end, and the controls are as you would expect them from a DJI gimbal. New here is the mode switch on the right side, and so it feels just like a shrunken RS4. On the left side there's the NATO port to attach the briefcase handle or other accessories, but it doesn't have the electrical connections for the accessories that the big ones have. The motors seem slightly larger, but the payload remains the same at 2 kilos, which should be sufficient for most mirrorless setups. The camera mount is totally different. It has completely been redesigned. And generally, space is much more an issue on these gimbals than the maximum payload weight. I really like the adjustment wheel knob for the camera position when balancing. That's something that also came from the bigger gimbals, and it's a fantastic addition. The gimbal becomes very compact once you remove this plate, and then it fits easily into a backpack, and it's so cool. The RS3 Mini required much more disassembly to lay flat, and that was quite annoying. Additionally, the RS4 Mini adopts the vertical conversation design of the RS4, making the switch to portrait mode video significantly quicker and easier. Although the RS3 Mini could do it, it wasn't as seamless as with the newer models. But you still need to balance again afterwards. The RS4 Mini also features a smaller version of the plate known from DJI's bigger gimbals. DJI uses a pseudo Arca Swiss mount here, which only fits with one plate, the provided one from DJI. Yes, it's well executed with the 3 locking pin positions, but DJI's plate is unnecessarily large and tall. I don't like to leave it on my camera longer than necessary. While the RS3 Mini allowed for the use of plates like Peak Design's Capture Clip or P2i Beetle Clip, this is no longer possible with the RS4 Mini. Until SmallRig releases a better plate, you have to use this massive silver Arca Swiss plate to use your RS4 Mini. But I don't understand why it needs to be so tall. With my Canon R5 II, the gimbal is already at the limit for balancing to this axis due to the plate's height. Anyone with a camera cage or an L bracket will likely have to remove it to balance larger lenses. And speaking of larger lenses, my R5 Mark II with the RF 24-72.8 doesn't fit. The eye cup hits the motor at the back. My R6 Mark II, on the other hand, with exactly the same lens, worked fine on the RS3 Mini. But the R6 Mark II doesn't have such a large viewfinder sticking out of the back. It worked fine with Canon's RF 35 1.4 VCM on my R5 II. My Lumix S5 II and another tested Lumix camera with Sigma's 2470 2.8 had no issues, but Panasonic's 2470 2.8 might not fit due to its size. Sony's A7R Mark V with the much smaller and lighter 20 to 70mm f4 is of course no problem, and also lightweight prime lenses like 1.8s or even 1.4s might not be a problem. New and also quite cool is the native smartphone mount for the RS4 Mini. It's optional but just costs 20 euros, and it eliminates the need for a separate gimbal for camera and smartphone. Although I'm not a smartphone filmmaker, this will certainly appeal to much more people that don't require two gimbals, so they have just one and it can fit a camera and a smartphone. On other bigger gimbals you had a minimum weight to stabilize properly, then the smartphone wasn't enough. With the correct camera properly balanced on the gimbal. The auto-locking axes on the RS4 Mini are just fantastic. I love them on the big ones, and I now also have them on the small one. When turning on, the axes unlock and the gimbal moves into position to start shooting. That's great. Pressing the power button quickly in operation locks the axis in place and puts the gimbal into sleep mode, where the motors stop and the gimbal itself doesn't move anymore. This is super handy when you don't need the gimbal between shots and want to carry it or want to stand it on the ground. Press and hold the power button to return to gimbal starting position to power it off. This feature was a game changer on the RS3 and is equally so on the lightweight RS4 Mini. I love it. I would be willing to pay more just alone for this feature compared to seemingly cheaper competition that doesn't have this feature since it's DJI exclusive. Other small improvements on the gimbal side include a larger integrated battery, which now lasts for up to 13 hours, DJI say so, compared to the previous up to 10 hours. It also charges faster via USB power delivery at a maximum of 22 watts, just taking 1.5 hours to fully charge instead of 2.5 hours. The handle isn't removable like on the RS3 or RS4, which is a bit annoying as you can't quickly swap out batteries. But up to 13 hours should be plenty of time. I've never had a gimbal run out of battery in one day, and pretty important to me, I already used to think that a gimbal with an integrated battery has to go on carry-on luggage. But devices with built-in but non-removable batteries are allowed in checked-in luggage as well on many airlines. So that's great for this travel gimbal. And you can still connect the camera to the gimbal via cable. So you can adjust settings like ISO, aperture or shutter speed using the front dial. The Bluetooth connection also works great with Sony, although my Canon R5 Mark II had trouble staying connected, but this should be fixed with a promised firmware update from DJI. The RS4 Mini's stabilization is indistinguishable from the larger models. They all use the same algorithm, they all are great, with almost the same features. Now, it's just a matter of how large a setup you will need. I took the RS4 Mini to Norway and filmed with Andy Grabo and Stefan Klapsus during our morning outing for some photos. I was very impressed with the RS4 Mini's performance. It's the familiar DJI stabilization quality and usability in a gimbal that's just smaller and just works. What really sold me is the AI tracking camera included in the combo package. It just connects via pogo pins to the RS4 Mini, and it's compatible with the RS4 and RS4 Pro as well with an adapter. I don't know when this adapter will be available and what it will cost, but it's cool. An AI tracking camera is not entirely new. Lighter gimbal setups have used this before, but now it's coming to the larger models for real cameras. This camera follows and keeps the subject in frame, making movement like parallax effects very easy. While I wouldn't say it looks better than when I do it by hand, I personally have years of gimbal experience and others might not. You can hand the gimbal to someone else and they can easily follow a person in front of the camera with using the gimbal without much experience. Simply press the trigger under the front dial once to start tracking and once to stop. It can also be used without a second person by placing the gimbal on the ground or the tripod and using gestures to start tracking and recording with a connected camera. This allows for more dynamic self-recordings if you want so. You can choose whenever the subject is centered in the frame, which I didn't like so much since it leaves a lot of space on top of the head and a little on the bottom. And you can maintain the initial framing, which makes much more sense to me. However, you cannot see what the small camera sees. Unlike with the Raven Eye module, which also had tracking capabilities and knew your focal length. The AI camera doesn't know your focal length and it just keeps the detected subject, human subject only, in the same position it was at the start of the tracking. It might not sound great, but it's similar to what the RS4 Pro can do with the LiDAR module attached. And that's pretty cool to have such thing in this small gimbal. There are some tracking options in the menu for the tracking sensitivity and the follow speed, but they won't help if two similar looking persons are in the frame at the same time. The camera has trouble distinguishing between them, especially in low light. This is not flawless and it might be improved over time, but it clearly has its limits, but it's clearly also pretty damn cool to have. And this small camera for just 70 euros is for me a game changer on a gimbal. For travel videos like my Madeira vlog series on my German channel last year, this would have been the perfect addition. And we will probably take this gimbal with us on a photo trip this year. The Canon R5C wouldn't fit on this gimbal, but I no longer have that camera. But I might have a cool, compact, powerful Lumix camera that might blow your mind soon. Who knows? In the end, the DJI RS4 Mini is an affordable gimbal for smaller setups with much to offer. Easy portrait mode shots, smartphone compatibility, auto locking access in a small gimbal, and this AI camera as an interesting option. Most importantly, it works just without trial and error, making gimbal shooting, which isn't that hard, accessible for beginners as well. I would even argue that properly balancing a gimbal is much harder than filming with a gimbal. There isn't much bad to say here. The price is reasonable. The feature set is just right with welcome new additions and the stabilization is spot on. I think the price is fair for what it offers, but it's a bit high. And most people who don't need new features might be better off with the cheaper RS3 Mini in an offer. One annoyance is still DJI's mounting system, which only works with the provided plate. There's not much else to say about this and it's unlikely to change since I say it every year in every new DJI gimbal video and it never changed. Some might also be bothered by the non-removable battery, although this is standard in this category. I would prefer this gimbal to be black, but that's just a minor issue if it works well. Let me know what you think of the RS4 Mini in the comments down below. And you can find links to the RS4 Mini from DJI below in the video description. And purchasing through these links supports this channel at no extra cost to you and ensures that I can continue making such videos. And if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell if you don't want to miss any new videos. Here are 2 more videos that you can watch next. And I have to say bye and see you next time.